ring, the Skull Grasp, where it should be putting out pretty decent damage on a single target. So we might see finally Barb's getting a little bit more competitive with the leaderboards without the use of Conduit, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, if Whirlwind is doing up to 5 times as much damage from the Skull Grasp, and then assuming the triple damage multiplies that, which it sounds like it does, we're talking about 15 times as much damage, right? That's a
That's what it
ridiculous.
sounds like, yeah. That's what it sounds
Ridiculous.
like.
I mean, you could rend for 5 seconds and effectively do the amount of damage that you would currently do rending for over a minute. Like, that's.
I hadn't even thought of it that way.
Or I say over a minute. I'm sorry. Like, well over a minute. Over 4 minutes, I guess. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I'm excited. Honestly, a lot of these sets just seem like, shifts for the metagame in terms of mixing up what we're using currently. Because I think this is what we were hearkening back to and talking about earlier, is that we just need more time for development because it's going to add more diversity to the pool. Right now we see M6, we see Akans, we see Firebirds, and it's just one choice because it's what's in the game. But as we add more of these types of sets, it's going to really put a mix up into what players are targeting and what's going to be useful, to the point where like you might find this Wrath of the Waste set and love it. Maybe the Raycore set, and that maybe that's a bad example because this is going to do something that Raycore doesn't do. But assuming that they get to the point where there's multiple sets that all do sort of the same thing but with different skills, you basically just get to pick your favorite skill and get that set, hopefully, and go
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the direction we're going in. I hope that.
Mhm.
I hope we can get to that place soon enough because. I mean, honestly, seeing all these sets, like I want to play a barb after seeing the barb set. I want to play a monk when reading the monk set. Like it's, I think this is definitely the best way to fix issues through adding new
I
items.
I want to play a witch doctor because of the kitten. I don't even know what stats they have.
Doesn't
I don't even know
matter.
what sets they're getting.
That's funny.
It's hilarious.
But one other thing, while we're talking about sets, I would like to add is that they do plan on going back and updating all of the classic sets, like the Natalia's Immortal Kings. All those sets are going to go back and get addressed since they're not really living up to their newer counterparts that were released in Reaper of Souls. They plan on going back and adding in 6-piece set bonuses, so that way they have an additional bonus with powers or abilities that will put them on the level of all of the newer sets. So it's not going to be something in patch 2.1.2, but it will be something to look forward to in the future.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think. Let's see. Have we missed anything on the BlizzCon coverage? Because I think we're nearing the end of that incredibly long section of our podcast.
Did legendary gems, did rifts, goblins, conduits, ancient items, the new zone, new conquests. I guess the only other thing would be the legendary workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was gonna ask what you guys thought about how they did the legendary workshop this year.
It was interesting. I think we got more information out of the blog post afterwards than we did during the panel, because it was the way that they did that panel was kind of weird. It was broken up into like 3 things: Diablo 3 postmortem, what they're going to be doing in the future of Reaper of Souls, and then the legendary workshop, and it was all kind of intermixed as they were going and talking. That it kind of went through these cycles.
Yeah, if you guys didn't see the panel, they brought the guest designers up on stage at the beginning of the panel. These are some people from the community and just people who are at BlizzCon. And then during the whole panel, they were quietly working on the legendary. And then at the end, 2 of the developers kind of showed, okay, this is what we came up with. But I felt like it was much more developer than community ran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like they really brought them up there. They're like, "What's your name?" And then that was it. They're like, "Now get off our stage."
They were. We couldn't really see it from the live stream, but they were off to the side and they were all writing things down on the giant whiteboard, putting up all the ideas. I guess the devs picked things from the feedback they had gotten, the submissions they had gotten, and threw it up on the board. And then they started talking with them about what they thought. And like I said, in the blog post, they actually went more in depth because they tried to, give an example of what the steps they go through when designing an item or a new feature to be added to the game, but it was kind of hurried through and rushed during the panel itself. But you can actually see a lot more about those concepts if you go back and you read the blog post about it, which we actually, have mirrored up on diablo.blizzpro.com. And it was interesting because they talked about a couple of the ideas and some of the things that worked and didn't work, like offensive potions that they that kind of that conflicted with one of their core concepts, of which is clarity of intent. With an offensive potion, you want to use the potion prior to combat, but then once you're in combat, you don't have your potion should you get into a jam. And so it's like, well, that feels kind of crappy. So that's why they don't have any offensive potions or any type of item that would add skills from one class to another class, because it detracts, it doesn't really add anything to that new class. It really, what it does is it subtracts something, because all of a sudden, one of my core abilities now has been given to somebody else, and they're using it in their builds, and I'm just sitting here being like, that was my thing, that was the thing that I did.
That's what concentrated coolness, right?
Yes, that was the concentrated coolness. And then the final thing that they did decide upon was a source for wizards that would rotate, and it would buff the different elements, like a predetermined rotation for your skills and such. And they like that idea so much that it's going to end up being like a ring or a belt or something like that, so that way every class could benefit from it. I don't know exactly how they're going to implement it, whether it just it changes, maybe it will make it so that way, like, your highest elemental damage bonus changes periodically, or maybe it changes the damage of all of your skills as well as your damage bonus periodically. But it has a lot of potential. I think it seems pretty interesting.
Yeah, from what John Wing was saying, John Yang rather, not Wing. I don't know who that is, but the developer from Diablo, John, was saying that it would change your elemental type, so you would have to change the skills you used for the different elemental types. So it gave me the idea that it wouldn't
Okay.
change the type of your skills. But it just got me thinking, like, what kind of builds would you make if every 15 seconds a different elemental type was buffed? And it seems like you'd want to have some kind of significant damage dealer for each elemental type, so you weren't just like nerfed during one of the rotations. But it would be so hard to get a primary and a spender for every damage type. I'm guessing the best builds for that kind of item would be buffing a bunch of primary skill damage, getting stuff like Depth Diggers and the Simplicity Strike, stacking a bunch of primary skill damage, and then just only using
Mhm.
generators.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
the example that they used on the stream was, Talrash's. It would go well with elemental exposure in the Talrash's set, since you would be able to time out, your meteor impacts with as it rotated.
Yeah, it would go well with Talrash's. Yeah, I guess it depends on how long each cycle was. If the cycles were fast enough, it could go well with elemental exposure and Talrash's.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like there's definitely a lot of refinement still for that item in specific. I feel like maybe even when you could go with like a dual or a tri-elemental build, and then when you are in that fourth element that's not one that you have, maybe that's your defensive portion, and then you're using your buffs or your debuffs or whatever at that point. Um, Something I did want to comment on in total with that panel is I really appreciated that they were trying to do something different in terms of like having multiple things going on. But I think because there were multiple things going on, both sections suffered as a result. Because I get it, it's really dry to just talk about like the history of Diablo, right? Like they made it fun with like the images and being really honest, by the way, which is something that I actually really appreciated, that they were that hard on themselves for the early development. But I would have loved, like, when you watched like the NFL, for instance, and they like mic up some of the like the QBs or whatever. I would have loved it if they were mic'd up the convos that they were having on the side, and maybe release that as just like an audio only version or something, so we could hear what that process was like of them saying, "Oh, we're striking this idea from the whiteboard and why." Because I would love to dig into that background of like, let's talk about this specific power and why we can't implement it or why we don't think it's good enough to stay on this board.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Kind of a missed opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of people would have loved to listen in on that conversation. All right.
So it goes. I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna sort of throw out a summary statement, but I just think in general, BlizzCon was interesting from the home perspective, from staying back here, in that we learned quite a bit in terms of info. But I feel like if you were, and you could probably speak to this, I feel like if you were at BlizzCon, there were so many other awesome things like the Hearthstone expansion or Overwatch, which you haven't even touched yet, that were going on that it shadowed the Diablo stuff. Like if you were at home, then you could focus your attention on these two panels and be excited about some of the coming changes. But if you're at BlizzCon, you're seeing the esports stage for like Hearthstone and StarCraft. You're hearing these amazing announcements about a brand new IP in the first 17 years, and then you're like, "Oh, Diablo wasn't mentioned in the opening statement. Oh, their panel's over there, but Overwatch is over here, and everyone's queued up." Like
that actually reminds me of one of the things when I was watching the Overwatch panel when they went through and they said, Overwatch was an extension of a philosophy that they had with wanting to design, interactive multiplayer games.
Titan.
And Diablo wasn't included in the screenshot. And Jeff Kaplan actually had to take a moment and explain, well, why Diablo isn't there. And it was like one of those like little sad, soul-crushing things, which kind of came with Archon's joke at the beginning of the podcast, where it's like, the reason why Diablo isn't up there is because it has no PvP. That even though it has a really great multiplayer aspect to it, we're only including the games with that have actual competitive play elements within it. And it's just like, oh, PvP is never going to happen.
Yeah, right. We're only including full games, games that are complete.
Yeah,
your game is still in beta, Diablo.
Like,
just relax.
Son of a God, no! Don't say things like that.
Yeah, it looks like it. No, yeah, and you're totally right, Leviathan. I mean, I'll be honest, I was excited for the Diablo changes. I didn't think we'd get as much as we did, even though the announcements for, other games, especially Overwatch, were a lot more exciting, I guess. I was still blown away by how awesome the new sets were, and I'm super excited for the patch. But yeah, being there, Diablo did seem like an afterthought through all of BlizzCon. The panels were less populated, and yeah, it was an exciting BlizzCon, and Diablo didn't have as much to announce. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, speaking of Overwatch,
Next year
is Diablo's year. Yeah, and like, I don't think you can hold anything against the developers. Like, all it really means is they didn't hold back for BlizzCon. Like, they could have waited and released, announced season 1 at BlizzCon, or they could have held back some of their big announcements for BlizzCon if they wanted to make a big show. But they've just been working diligently, and weren't trying to save something for BlizzCon. So nothing.
Yeah, this is like the BlizzCon for World of Warcraft in between, like the release of an expansion and before the announcement of the next one. They're just, in the next patch we're doing like this raid zone.
Yeah.
And here's a preview of some of the class changes we're gonna make. It's like for those, it's not really that big. There's nothing exciting, nothing really new that we're learning. And this is the BlizzCon in between expansions. So for the Diablo. So hopefully, next year we'll get an expansion announcement for Diablo.
Yeah, I would guess we'd get the expansion announcement before next BlizzCon, and they would just like reveal some features at BlizzCon.
That's what we're expecting, yeah, because next year is definitely, without a doubt, is going to be a World of Warcraft expansion announcement. So they probably will want to spread out all of their announcements. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see Diablo being the expansion itself being announced prior to, and then the details come out at BlizzCon.
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys haven't looked up Overwatch or seen the videos, who are you? Why are you living under a rock? Go do it. But yeah, it was awesome. I gotta say, my first reaction was, "Oh, Blizzard's making a new Pixar movie."
Yes.
Yes.
I was like, oh, Toy Story 5 or something.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And if you're wondering why there was a crazy amount of development put into the opening cinematic for this game, I'm just speculating, but I think it's probably because this was Titan,
Hmm.
right?
Uh,
This is the what's left over after they scrapped everything else.
yes and no.
And go on.
I mean, from when they did the post-mortem of Titan, there are some obvious elements within like that opening sequence that kind of tie in to Titan. Um, but the other thing is that Titan has overshadowed the fact that they have had an unannounced game that was not Titan under development for like the last 6 years that everyone just never really noticed. They had job postings for an unannounced MMO and an unannounced game project, two separate things. Overwatch was being developed in tandem with Titan for a very long time, and just everyone was constantly talking about Titan, but they always still had this other game that was sitting there, this unannounced title that was being developed at the same time.
But see, okay, so like I buy into that, but to some degree, look at the game director for Overwatch. It's a
Yeah.
guy, I can't remember his name, I'm so sorry, but
Jeff
he,
Kaplan.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff Kaplan primarily worked on the early World of Warcraft, which was an MMO. So you have to
Yeah.
believe that he was on the Overwatch project or the Destiny project, or wow, I can't speak.
Yeah,
You heard it here first.
He
Push
was
behind
assigned
Destiny.
to Titan. When he left
Mhm.
World of Warcraft, he was assigned to Titan. But remember, the Titan dev crew got, killed. What was it, a year and a half, 2 years ago? And they were going to be rebuilding it from the ground up. And then
True.
probably somewhere along those lines, he got shifted over to Overwatch. He might not have been the primary director the entire time, because when Jay Wilson left the Diablo 3 team, he became the game director for, it was either Titan or Overwatch. It
All right.
doesn't look like it was Overwatch, so it looks like he might have filled Jeff Kaplan's position on Titan when he went over to Overwatch.
So wait, can we? This is so mean, but can we say that Jay Wilson killed 2 games? I'm sorry.
Poor Jay Wilson.
You're
I'm
mean.
so sorry.
You're a
That's
mean
mean.
person.
That's terrible. I actually really like the guy. He gave us D3. He gave us the base, a starting point. I like him. I didn't mean it. Come on, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna speak to my argument that Overwatch is Titan. This is a description that came out about Titan right after it got canceled from someone who was able to play it, a press person from
Mm-hmm.
Kotaku. 3 people who saw the game have compared the aesthetics to Team Fortress 2, with one source describing it as a cross between StarCraft 2's in-game cinematics and Pixar's The Incredibles. Your perspective would switch between first and third person based on whether you were heading into combat or hanging out in a city. According to 2 sources, not unlike Bungie's Destiny, players would be able to select from classes with names like Reaper, Jumper, Titan, Ranger, and Juggernaut, each of which had its own special combat abilities, items, according to a source. So they're explaining Titan as Team Fortress 2 with Pixar's cinematics and a class called Reaper. Maybe those are just 3 huge coincidences, but to me, I think it's what's left over from Titan.
Could be.
I don't know, but yeah, I guess we have a lot of people listening, so send us in some feedback, comment on our YouTube videos. Let us know what you think. We'll keep speculating.
I feel like they'll never say either, right? Because they don't want us to believe that it was just like some lazy like, oh, we have all these art assets and things left over. Let's just make it a different game. They're gonna want us to believe that there was innovation in order to make it become like this. Like this was a different thing. I think I've seen in some cases some things that said like they borrowed parts from Titan, but it wasn't all Titan. I don't. Who knows? I don't know. Do you people know? Let us know.
Yeah, someone has
Yeah.
to know. It's gonna come out, right? They can't keep it in the dark. Eventually, we're gonna find out if this is Titan or not.
Mm.
But yeah,
All
either
right.
way, Overwatch was amazing. I stood in line and played it 4 times. So good. And I don't play shooters. I played Team Fortress a little bit, but I've like never gotten into shooters. And the coolest thing about Overwatch was if you suck at shooters, you can still play. Like every class played so differently that it was like playing a new game every time.
It's exciting, man.
It's gonna be
I
so
don't
good.
play shooters either, and it's got me interested a little bit. So,
It should, yeah. Wait till you play it. It's just a good game. I mean, I don't think you have to be into shooters. My biggest curiosity right now is if it's gonna be free to play or not.
hmm
Yeah, that was a question that they dodged multiple times while at BlizzCon.
Yeah. Guess we'll find out. But yeah, I keep thinking of Overwatch as if it was an MMO. Trying to wonder what Titan may have been like. Who knows?
I think it'll be the perfect game that you can play between seasons of Diablo.
There you go.
We'll tie it all back.
Yeah. Back to Diablo. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about with BlizzCon before we got into our feedback?
Um,
Well, I have a question. At this point, we are 2.5 hours into our
It's
show.
going to be our longest.
True.
It already is our longest show yet.
Did we want to just make it maybe a BlizzCon wrap up and then, maybe save the? I don't know.
The feedback.
I
The
feel
feedback
bad.
is like 3 weeks old by now. So maybe we let chat talk it up while we discuss it. Should we save feedback? Actually, you know what? I know what chat's going to say. They're already here, right?
Right.
yeah.
I mean,
You know what?
yeah.
What? You know what? It's a mega episode. Let's do it. We haven't had an episode in so long.
We owe it to the community, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On we go.
Okay, I have to go to the bathroom. You guys take off with feedback, and I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Sure. I mean, there was one that I definitely wanted to address. So,
All right. You
but
you
go
do
ahead.
that first, because I have my mega one here. So.
Yep. This one came in, was sent to us from Anthony. He was just going through and saying that he's really liked some of the things that we've done. He's dabbled in hardcore a little bit, but one of the questions I actually wanted to go and talk about is he mentioned that in Diablo 3 Classic, Malachai the healer, who is in Act 1, is constantly goes on and is quoting from the prophecy of end of times, is that death is upon us, and that all of a sudden, bam, Malthael is the boss of the next expansion. And then now one of the things that he's just picking up is that Tyrael and Lorath are constantly talking about Skovos, when you're in adventure mode. He wants to know what is Skovos? Where is Skovos? Never heard of it before. What significance is this?
Mm-hmm.
And although I don't really think that it is going to be the central piece of the next expansion, but then again, I could very well be wrong. But the Skovos Isles is where the Amazons from Diablo 2 hail from, and it's also the rogues, also from Diablo 2 and Diablo 1, originally hailed. They're kind of like a splinter faction that broke away from the Amazons at Skovos and stole, the legendary artifact, because they're the rogues of the Sightless Eye, or the Sisters of the Sightless Eye, and it's an item called the Sightless Eye, that allowed them to kind of see events and look into the future and kind of things of that nature. But yeah, the Skovos Isles is just where the Amazons hail from, and it's kind of a brutal land. That's why they have like the warrior caste, and they're very, very they're fighters of legendary renown, because it's kind of a harsh environment. There's some concept art from it. If you look back at some of the early Diablo 3 stuff, that looks kind of it's very Greek in origin, to kind of go with that Amazon theme. So you have some islands with some little skiffs and some Greek like structures built into the island. So that is where Skovos comes from.
The one thing that I would always have thought originally would have made it wow, I don't know where I'm trying to lead my thought with that, but in any case, the one thing that I thought might detract from us going to Skovos in the expansion would be that it should tie to the next class that they introduce, and I wouldn't imagine them introducing the Amazon or anything like that back, because we have the
That'd be
Demon
awesome.
Hunter. I would love it. I just want to throw javelins
Necromancer?
again. That's all.
Yeah.
Necro. But then when I think about it, like the Crusader isn't exactly, well, in a way, kind of tied with the lore of Westmarch. So would they have to do something where if they're going to use a new area, it has to tie to the class that they'll present in the next expansion?
It was it was one of those conceptual things that they wanted to go to Westmarch, and they kind of had to build it around the theme of Malthael and death, and because Westmarch was kind of built on its basis was in the Zakarum faith, that it gave them a great ability to kind of bring back the paladin, but change it to make it different, and have like that kind of center concept on the Zakarum, and that's kind of how it came to be. So it would all be what the next area is, who the next bad guy is, and how things tie together. Because from some of the conversations I've had with some of the lore guys and some of the writers, it's the game design is what then dictates the lore, not the other way around. If they say that they want to go through and in the next expansion we're going to go and kill Diablo again and we're going into hell, then when they come up with a class and like kind of like a core concept of a class is going to be like a demon hybrid or whatever, then the lore guys will then take that and create something from it and give it the story from there. So that's kind of how the design elements go.
You guys heard it. Sorry, I was gonna hear you guys heard it here first. Nineball just confirmed the next Diablo expansion where we kill Diablo again and a hybrid Diablo demon class is introduced.
Yeah,
because we do know that he has tie-ins to adding things into the game, since there will be a lore conquest next season. So he's basically a developer.
There we go. I can dream.
He knows people.
I can dream.
Oh, there it is. Mm-hmm. All right. Would you say that was sufficiently lored? We lored that question?
I think so.
All right. Well, I have here a mega post on the forums from Ohm, OHM, who is one of our, he writes in pretty regularly, and his email started out with, sup fellas, of course.
Yeah.
And then he goes in and says, I just posted this today because I want to go on the forums, but also want to share some ideas with you. It's long-winded, but I think there's some cool ideas here. And then he goes into the forums, and it really is a ton of ideas. And first and foremost, he thanks us for, being awesome and helping engage the community with our podcast and all that good stuff, and Flux as well and all that good stuff. So awesome. Thank you. And man, I don't even know where to start. One of the things that he talks about is possibly making buffs to reasons to play the story mode again, because it's there, but the seasons start without needing to go into story mode, and this is something that they actually kind of touched on at BlizzCon too.
Yeah,
which was that they wanted to go with the season one, making sure adventure mode was open, because it was interesting. They hadn't, no one had ever gotten to the point where they could do adventure mode from level 1, because it had to be unlocked by going through Act 5 and killing Malthael. And we all had these level 60 characters and whatnot and even if you started at level 1, you still had to go through Act 1 through 5 to get the adventure mode unlocked. Mm-hmm. So they thought that would be interesting. But Ohm does make a point where, right now, there's really no reason to go into story mode unless you're doing Speed Racer Conquest, to be quite honest. Mm-hmm. So maybe something that would be interesting to, buff those things up. And he also then goes into another idea where, why do any of the other acts when we're doing bounties? Because really everyone just wants the Ring of Rogrander from Act 1. Another idea he had there was that perhaps there'd be reasons to do all 5 acts, and then you would get bonus items from that last cache. He introduced my idea that I had with maybe you get a bonus % to get a unity because he unified the bounties or something like that. He also talked about maybe a way to bring back legendary materials, but also from BlizzCon as well. One of the things they noted was, stash space, right? Like everyone wants more stash space. And one thing that Josh maybe said tongue in cheek was that, like, if we gave you guys more stash space, it would the internet would be mad at us because all the internet would just be your items, which is awesome to think about. But it's
Yeah.
kind of it does get to an interesting point where how many things can they add to the game? And I mean, we had the legendary crafting materials in the game at one point, so it's not to say that they couldn't be added back in, but I guess what purpose would they serve? Like, is that going to be a good change in terms of making the gameplay more compelling? And if it makes bounties more interesting, then maybe, because I feel like we really don't have a reason to do bounties until you run out of Rift key shards at that point, or Rift keys. So maybe that would make sense to me. He then goes on to dismantle grifts and trials, and he calls them meh. Um, one of his suggestions were actually, and what's really interesting is that we should actually state that some of these things that we had, because we hadn't done a show in so long, a lot of these things were issued before BlizzCon came out, so they're not super recent. But what's really interesting is that some of his suggestions are actually things that they talked about at BlizzCon. So one thing, for instance, he has here is that instead of spawning similar monster types for the whole level, make each pack sort of designated so that you can have different kinds of packs and different kinds of distribution of monsters throughout the level. And that was something Wyatt actually addressed and said, we talked about earlier in the show tonight, that they will be going in and kind of redoing the distribution of monsters and making sure the population is a little more even, etc. So yeah, he thinks, and actually this one thing here that's really interesting, is his third suggestion would be to make pylons have 50% less of an effect on guardians. Now this is actually a great way to keep pylons in greater rifts, but not have them be so like exploitive, or a way to kind of dismantle the difficulty that you're on. Perhaps maybe it gets you a faster clear time to get to the Greater Rift Guardian, but then they lower the efficiency on the effect they have against them. So it really is up to your character to then, finish that Greater Rift off. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
seems like the kind of idea that the developers must have at least talked about by now. It'd be interesting to hear why they wouldn't want to do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I guess the one thing that I did want to address about like the story mode, is just Kevin Martins was talking about that specifically, is that you know adventure mode is where it's at, and that's where all the development time is going into, because they don't really want like the player base being spread out, and these people doing this and this people doing that and spread across the multiple game types. And so they kind of this is the lucrative, this is the best play style, and we're okay with it being that everyone goes through and does adventure mode, and that story mode might be leveraged, like you said, with the 1 hour clear achievement. And then now also they're kind of set on also making it so the collect all the lore books achievements is also going to require play through story mode in order to complete.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're fine with it, in that respect for now. And definitely for the next couple seasons, adventure mode will just be unlocked from the beginning. But they might try it out in a future season that will force you to play through story mode first before it unlocks adventure mode. But it'll be something that they try out and see if it works, or if people like it, or if they're just trying something new by making something with playing through story mode, add to the play environment.
See, I feel like now that they've done it where we had seasons, or we had adventure mode to start, like adding story mode before it would only seem like a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
See, like it's a punishment that I'm okay with because everyone has to do it.
Mm.
Like I feel like when seasons were first coming out, we were still kind of like excited about adventure mode and maybe a little burnt out of story mode. But I think, at least personally, I'm getting to the point where I'm sick of adventure mode and just would like something to change it up. And just
Yeah.
like that, like initial run through story mode, I think would be a nice start. And I don't know, adventure mode is just always a lot more exciting once you've just finished the story mode. And you're like, oh, finally, I can just farm stuff and not worry about the story. but the story mode kind of makes it worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but yeah, I'm glad they're gonna try it out on future seasons.
Yeah.
Agreed. And that's pretty much all I got from here.
Should we move on to items of the week, or do you guys want to grab a few more feedbacks? We got way more feedbacks than we can cover this week, so we have to be a little selective.
Yeah, that covers it for about me. I got the one lore question out of the way. It just is it's kind of bad because it's been so long. A lot of the questions and things that we've gotten, um, I guess aren't as relevant, post BlizzCon. And
Hmm.
a lot of other ones are just like gearing questions and things of that nature, which we'll try to address individually through email. It probably would just take up too much time during the show.
Well, we have a ton of items of the week, but we'll go through them pretty quickly here so we don't make the show take too long. Thank you guys for sending these in. These and your feedback, by the way. Keep sending them. Apologize sometimes when we take weeks off. We can't get to all of them, but we try. All items of the week and feedback can be sent to westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
First item of the week comes from Vincent. He sent in both a Blade of Prophecy and the Furnace, and both pretty sexy, about 3,700 damage without increased attack speed, which is nice. Rolls overall were just really sexy. Got 48% damage on the Furnace. He rerolled cooldown speed on there. Two awesome items, and also a third that Vincent sent in just recently was this Cinder Coat with one away from max strength. He rerolled to get perfect Vit and almost perfect with 19% bonus to fire skills and 29 reduced cost of fire skills. Got Willem sent in this Hellfire amulet, which I think people who have tried know it's so hard to get a good Hellfire amulet. But
Oh, can I just say, like,
yeah,
there's actually been a guy in the Westmarch Workshop community in game, which actually exists in game, by the way, if you guys want to join. Little plug.
EU
Um,
and NA.
yes, that's right. We're global. Um, but there's a guy in there, and his name is, because I wrote it down because I wanted to thank him. Oh my gosh, where is it on these post-it notes?
I just imagine Leviathan's desk like completely covered in post-it notes. Can't even see it. He's like, "Oh my, which post-it note was it?"
Oh man, you guys don't even want to actually. Well, maybe in the after show I'll show you. Um, Dang it, I think his name was Soul. That sounds right. But he has been letting me leech off of him in order to help with Ubers, and we've been doing. I think we did 5 or 6 runs, and it really is hard to make a good Hellfire. Like none of them have rolled well at all. So I'm impressed, even more so now with any of the ones that people send in that are legit.
Yeah, I mean it's not too surprising that we get good ones because there's so many of them being made. But yeah, it's pretty awesome when you can get a good one.
Yeah, I still need to try and craft one myself. I have a couple keys together.
I just don't have the motivation. I'm just like I don't want to go through all that work and then just get what most people are getting when they get Hellfire rings. But if you guys are just listening, Willem got a Hellfire amulet with 638 dex, 76 crit damage, 9 crit chance, and he got the steady aim passive, which is not a bad passive at
Which
all.
is a very good passive, especially when lined up with Zystone of Vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, which is the legendary gem that he's using in the
Mm-hmm.
socket he has. He rerolled the socket on the amulet.
Yep.
Uh,
So
okay.
that is like that amulet by itself. If you're like 50 yards away, you're doing a ridiculous amount of increased damage.
Yeah.
Mm.
Captain Crunch, the cereal guy, he also plays Diablo. I'm glad my joke went over well on Leviathan. And he sent in
It's
this
getting
Unity.
late.
Yeah, we're getting delirious.
I'm loopy.
Yeah, I am so jealous of pretty much any Unity that gets sent in because I just want one. I don't even care what it rolls at this point. But his is pretty sexy with 47 crit damage, 6 crit chance, max 15% against elites, and he rolled a socket on there.
Yep. So he rolled the main stat into a socket.
Yeah, not a
Move.
bad choice.
No.
Uh,
It's funny that we're now at that point that like main stat is one of the weakest ones.
yeah.
Who
Yeah,
would
I
have thought?
mean, yeah, it doesn't multiply as much as crit chance and crit damage does. So once you
Hmm.
get those stats, crit chance, crit damage just keep getting better. High Newen sent in this Golden Gorget of Leoric which rolled almost maximum dexterity at 742, 93 all res, 98 crit damage, and 10 crit chance. So, I mean, it is a golden gorget of Lurk, but that's pretty sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to beat that.
And nothing enchanted yet too. So turn that
Yeah.
all res into a socket.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
to go.
This guy's niggest boob is biggest noob, I guess, is what he was going for. He just switched the first letters around. I'm not gonna judge him. Anyways, biggest noob sent in this balance, and it's actually a level 9 balance. Required level 9 right there. Not from reduced level requirement. It's just a required level 9 two-handed weapon that rolled 1600 damage.
I didn't even realize that. I didn't even notice that when going through the items.
Yeah,
Oh, damn.
it's pretty much a level 9 item that rolled with level 60 stats.
I want to know, how are these being made?
I don't. Yeah, I wonder if it was console or not. I don't think he said in the email. I can't. This is from a few weeks ago, so I apologize. I don't remember the details.
It's really interesting because I've never seen anything like this on my finds, and I don't know where you would play in order to make these circumstances occur. That's really awesome
Yeah.
though. From level 9, you're basically twinked out.
Like it
You're
could be
good
like
to go.
a disgruntled viewer who just never got his items of the week on the stream, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna Photoshop the best item they've ever shown on Westmarch
Uh,
Workshop. But no, I think it's totally legit. It's just yeah, I never hear about this on PC, so it makes me think maybe console's a little more glitchy and that it rolled over there. But I'm probably just racist against console players, which is a race, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that.
But you know what? This isn't console because there's the X at the top of the item,
Oh
and you can't
yeah,
you can't
oh
X
yeah.
things out without a mouse.
touche. Very very astute of you.
Or else this is the best Photoshop in the world.
Yeah, he thought of everything. All right. The last 4 photos we have for our items of the week all sent in gloves. So I thought we'd have a little mini who sent in the best glove competition.
I love these.
Okay, so starting off, Paige actually sent in 3 items, and so we'll save the gloves for last. He sent in this Zephyrian amulet with 708 dex, 6 attack speed, 92 crit damage, and 10 crit chance. Prevents all lightning damage. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, if it was
Yep.
a Countless Julius cameo, that'd be even better. But lightning damage, not bad.
No, not at all.
Depends on the class though too, because I know, for instance, some of the demon hunters that are running the M6 build with the meticulous bolts, the lightning version, apparently like it creates a heavy amount of lag if your system
Mm,
is not that great. And so one of the things that can kill you in that build is the electrified effects on mobs, because you don't see
Mhm.
the bolts, the electric bolt,
Oh,
until they're
that's not even because of the lag. It's just the screen is literally covered with those builds. You're firing 4 of those elemental shots per second. They overlap one another. Where they're firing, you cannot see anything. And when you drop, depending upon whether you're using a Calamity or a Hell Trapper, you might have 3 to 5 of those sentries out, and you can't see anything. You literally can't see
mm,
anything.
Mm. So,
all
so
right.
I've heard that this might be a way to mitigate that a little bit then. But yeah, I would say probably arcane for the normal DHs that get one hit killed from being jailed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is a Doombringer that rolled a 2370 damage, 20% max physical skill damage. It's a Doombringer though, right? Like
Uh,
this is the outcast of these 3 items that got sent in.
for sure.
But these Mage Fists and the first submission to our glove competition this week are just amazing. 18% fire damage, a perfect 750 int, perfect 7 attack speed, perfect 10 crit chance, and then he rolled 43 crit damage in there, which of course, if you wanted to, he'd keep rolling until it got perfect, and then you'd have near perfect Mage Fists.
Damn. That's all I gotta say
Yep.
about that.
Yeah, not too bad. The next pair of gloves we got submitted, keep track because I'm going to ask you guys in chat to vote for the favorite. So this is Mage Fists. We got these Tasker and Theos from Mark of Death. They rolled 706 dexterity, 5 attack speed. He re-rolled to get a perfect 50 crit damage, and it has 9 crit chance in it, with 44 attack speed on his pets.
I was there when this dropped, not actually in the game, but I was online because he's in the Bliss Pro clan, and it was hilarious because prior to this happening, he was just talking about his DH, how he was like loving it, and he's like, "Man, if I could only find a tasker, my build would be so good."
He said in the email that he spent 30,000 shards before he got
Mm,
these. And this
hmm
was his first pair of tasker, right?
Yes, the first ones that ever dropped for him, and now he's done.
Yeah. That's karma. Yeah, it paid off.
You see,
No
Nine Ball,
comment.
this is how it's done.
No comment.
When you finally get a pair of good taskers.
And it's even transmogged as Marauder's gloves.
I didn't even notice that.
It
It's
totally
true.
is.
I noticed that. They are really good, but like one of the sad things is with that, with the rolls of the increased attack speed of the pets and the just the increased attack speed on it, he has to make up for that on additional items. So he has to get attack speed rolled on like both rings and amulet in order to reach the 4.1.5 breakpoint if he wants to do the elemental arrow build.
Oh,
So
interesting.
not obviously it's taskers and those are amazing and it is going to make the M6 build shine completely, but it like as good as it is, it's still unfortunately it's that increased attack speed and the attack speed on the pets are like the most important things when trying to reach those higher level gear breakpoints for demon hunters, and that they unfortunately are both rolled low.
So basically, Nine Ball says, "Try again, Mark of Death. You suck."
Not good enough.
I still congratulate you on finding a taskers because it's something that I've not been able to accomplish. But yeah, definitely. I mean, they're very good, but it still has some gearing options to do the lightning build.
Have you still not gotten a tasker since that pair that Minerva gave you? That's great. Yeah,
Yep.
your taskers are my unity, I guess.
You know how many
Yeah.
I've found since Nine Ball hasn't gotten any?
Aren't you up to 3?
3.
Yeah. And you play a Crusader.
And I play a Crusader.
You-
I actually salvaged one pair.
Wow.
No,
If any of
not
us,
listening.
if
Not
any
listening.
of us, if any of us were against bind on pickup items, this would be the time to have a rant about trading, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, next pair of gloves that we got this week came from Frozen, who sent in these Roland's Grasps with perfect strength rolled naturally, re-rolled to get perfect crit damage. Came with 9.5 crit chance and 8% reduced cooldown. That's pretty awesome right there.
Now looking at this is insane. If only the Roland set were good, then this would be worth something. But yeah, these are amazing gloves for a Crusader because probably more important than anything that you can get on the gloves is the cooldown reduction, and that rolled perfectly for him naturally. Yeah, this is like the. I just hope at some point, like because the Crusaders just got Roland's in this last season, so I hope that when it comes our turn to get set revisions or another set, that they give Roland's another pass through because it has potential, and he should hold on to this. So hopefully they make the changes and he doesn't have to find it again.
Yeah, especially when you look at the pair of gloves that he's replacing, which are these Penders purchased with subpar stats and no crit damage. That's a pretty awesome find right there.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder
Huge.
can we see the increase? 9.7 damage. Okay,
Wow.
not as much as I thought it'd be. Still, I guess 10% damage from one slot. Not bad.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, and the last item of the week for the week, these gauntlets of, is it Akon? Akon?
A con.
Akon. Which are perfect. The primary stats are, I guess, depending on your build, but maybe you'd want reduced cooldown over Vit, but it has max strength, max Vit, max crit damage, max crit.
I saw these when these came in, and I was like, "Gosh darn!" And I used more vulgar language than that, but I was like, "Wow." Them rolls though. But yeah, if only that Vit were CDR, man. Oh, those gloves would be perfect. Plus the fire resistance, which is huge. And then it's always nice to have a little bit of a pickup radius. Oh my god. Although, well, if we're getting into perfect items, because why not, right? Then you would want a secondary resist on this. So basically, you would want like those two, that strength, that crit hit chance, that crit hit damage, and then your 8% CDR, some sort of secondary resistance that you didn't have on your other pieces of gear, and then on gloves, stun percent actually, which is a rare roll. But oh man, these in general are, if he didn't have anything similar prior, these are awesome. But he's gonna have to make up that CDR. Kind of similar to what Nineball was saying about the taskers. It's unfortunate that these rolled so well, but without one of the key stats.
Wow, yeah. All right, so those are the 4 pairs of gloves. Who won? What do you guys think?
Oh, what was the second one?
Let's see. The second one was Mark of Death's Tasker and Theos.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I would say the Mage Fist.
That was going to be my vote. So I mean, some other ones rolled better, but I mean, it's Mage Fists, right? That's
Yeah.
Mage Fists are nice.
Yeah.
Well, it is hard to say. I think out of all of them, that even though they didn't roll all that great, the Tasker and Theo is probably still the best out of the 3 in terms of actually getting use. Because
Sure,
that's
they're
still
the rarest, right?
Yeah, not only just rarity, but also because it's like that is still going to do so much for his Marauders 6 build. Just from having that. Whereas, like you said, Roland's just isn't really all that useful, and the Mage Fists are nice, but I don't really know of too many builds that factor in Mage Fists versus something else.
It's true. Firebird's sometime, but it depends on what piece you want to give up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a good point. That's a good point.
My vote would still have to go with the Tasker and Theo, as much as it pains me. Because I don't have one yet.
And until you get one, none of them are good.
Well, Nineball, someday you're going to get an ancient Tasker Theo, and then you can just laugh.
I hope so much.
There you go. Well, I think we're done, which is weird because I can't really remember life before this episode started. It's been so long. I don't know if I'll be able to readjust to society.
But hey, we killed a lot of time. 2.5 hours till Warlords, guys. So that's what we're really here for.
That's true. Yeah, I just got to stay awake for another few hours, and then I'm cruising on Warlords until I realize it's next week sometime.
Time to do the podcast again.
Yeah, what podcast? I just started playing Warlords. All right. Well, anything else you guys want to say before we start the outro music here?
No, that's it.
I have one thing to levy.
Right.
You can start the outro with this, but
here we go.
Here's Leviathan's bona fide. I'm losing all my words. My thoughts on the release schedule for what's coming up next for Diablo, and I got thrown off because Nineball said the PTR is coming in November. That totally screwed up my timetable. What I think is that we'll get the announcement of the end of the season, either the end of this week or the beginning of next week, because they said they want to do it 30 days before season ends, which would end the season around mid-December. I thought we would get the PTR at that point, but hey, if they started at the end of November before Thanksgiving, fine. The PTR goes until middle of January because they take their nice Blizzard break. They do the holiday stuff. They don't really do much, And then the season 2 starts at the middle to end of January.
I think I might be a little ambitious.
Think so?
Yeah. I guess I'm the similar mindset.
Okay, I'm stopping the outro music. Sorry, outro music was nearing a close. Sorry, go ahead.
I was expecting the PTR in December. They take the development break. No real patches or anything happens until January, and then we would actually get patch 2.1.2 in February.
That's a long PTR.
Yeah, and also, gosh darn it, we almost did forget.
Oh, the contest.
Totally. Yeah. We're not ready for outro music at all.
Crap.
We're losing.
Yep. So as he just mentioned something about a contest, in order to help compete or to combat, I should say, the post BlizzCon depression that we were going and hinting at there, I thought I had brought it out, but I don't have it with me at the moment. Dang it, where did I put it? I'll find it eventually. I better find it eventually.
You talking about something like this?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it looks kind of like that.
Yeah, we will be giving away a copy of Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls for the PS4. Blizzard provided us with a copy, and we decided that we're going to go and do a giveaway. And so, the viewers out there, if you have a PlayStation 4 or are thinking about getting a PlayStation 4, you have a chance to win a copy of the game. And we're going to make it simple. All you have to do is send us an email with what you would think would be the best set bonuses for the Ogchild set would be. You don't have to do images or anything like that. You just write out a list of what you think the set bonuses would be, and we'll take in all the feedback over the next 2 weeks. So we do expect to announce a winner on let's make that 3 weeks, because 2 weeks is Thanksgiving. So we'll announce the winner on December 4th. So you'll have until December 3rd in order to submit feedback. So just send us your ideas of what you think the set bonus for the Ogchild set would be. We'll pick our favorite, announce the winner.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know what the Ogchild set is, you probably haven't watched enough of our show, and we'd rather give it to someone else. I'm sorry. We're very happy that you're a new viewer,
Yeah.
but you're probably not eligible. Oh, and if you guys want to do anything special, all you need to do is send an email explaining the Ogchild set bonus. But if you wanted to send a Photoshop version displaying the set bonus or anything else, bonus points.
Someone is actually, is it only U.S. and Canada to enter? That's a question I don't know. It is a U.S. copy of the game. Will that play outside of the U.S.?
There's laws on how we do giveaways. Maybe in the immediate present, we should just say it might only be U.S. and Canada.
Yeah, this is true. We will have to go and look into that. I'll have to consult the legal team.
So if you're outside U.S. and Canada, and you don't mind putting some work that might go to Vane in, send us your idea, but disclaimer, we might not be allowed to.
Yep.
You can still win glory, though.
Yeah. And maybe we'd still say, this was the winner, but we have to give it to the second place.
Right. Yep.
Cool.
Okay, with that, outro music commences. And now there's no turning back. The show's ending as soon as the song ends. So, no pressure, but say something important right now. Damn it. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry that we didn't have an episode in a few weeks, but hopefully we made up for it in our 3-hour plus episode. And we will be back next week talking more about the upcoming patch and what you guys are up to. So keep sending in your feedback. If you want to catch the show live, it's at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. No, most Wednesdays at twitch.tv/ArchonTheWizard. Catch us on Twitter at ArchonTheWizard, at SAStewart111, and at 9ballgamer, or our official podcast Twitter at the WM Workshop. And keep sending your feedback. Westmarch Workshop at bluespro.com. I apologize that my internet connection is dying as the show is ending, but convenient timing. So keep farming, find them unities, and may everything roll a socket.
And stop sending in pictures of Taskers and Theos.
Send more.